Welcome, welcome, welcome. Resounding welcome to all the viewers joining us today for a momentous YouTube live session featuring the distinguished speaker development coach, Jesse Cruz. I'm thrilled to have each of you here as we dive into the captivating world of speaking on stage, making impact and income. So, whether you are a seasoned or aspiring speaker, the session is actually made for you. Jesse Cruz, renowned speaker for his expertise, will actually open up the secrets of impactful public speaking and will guide us on the journey to transform our passion into a lucrative source of income. Today's agenda includes exploring proven techniques to captivate audiences, mastering effective communication skills, and unlocking the door to monetizing your speaking engagements. This is more than a session, it's an immersive experience designed to empower you on your speaking journey. So be comfortable and grab a seat for yourself, grab a spot so that you are there till the end, right? So before I hand over the stage to Jesse Cruz, I'll just give a small introduction about Jesse. And Jesse is a speaker development coach. He is an award-winning and international speaker. It's been long time that he is into this field and he has empowered thousands of people. So today he is with us to empower all of us. You are watching us now or you will be watching us later. You will definitely get a benefit from this session. So without any delay, let me hand over the stage to Jesse Cruz, and Jesse will be talking to you for next 35 to 40 minutes and then we'll have a Q&A session. So over to you, Jesse.
Thank you, Prasad, for the introduction. Imagine having the opportunity to be able to share your message in a way that changes lives. That when you share that message, someone will be like, oh my goodness, my life can change too. That's why learning effective communication is so important. When I work with my clients, there's three keys that we go over learning how to make a difference when speaking. The very first process, it's called the 3D system of speaking. The very first part is what's called the discovery phase. Okay, so if you're taking notes, make sure you write this down in the 3D system. The first part is the discovery phase. It's understanding that you have certain parts of your life that if you share them, you will make a huge impact. And that discovery phase is finding specific stories, certain stories from your life that have impacted you, and then being able to communicate in a way that impacts the audience. And you may be thinking to yourself, typically when I'm coaching people, they say one of two things. One is that they never had anything traumatic happen, so their life has been pretty boring and average, so they don't think they have a compelling story. Or two, they believe they've gone through so much pain and so much trauma that it's too personal to share on stage. And the truth is, you have just the right amount of specific life experience in your particular story to make a huge impact on people. So, how do you find these stories? Where do you go to find the stories from your entire life to pull from? When it comes to the discovery phase, it's usually three key areas that you can pull from to be able to say, hey, this is a great spot for a story. So, this is what it looks like when you're trying to find a story to share on stage. You want to first start with a challenge that you faced, right? A particular challenge. It could be something like, you know, getting cut from a basketball team or struggling in school, getting bad grades, or you went through like a breakup, right? These are just typical challenges that people go through. And so anytime that you went through a challenge, it's quite literally a great place to pull a story. So if you could think of one particular challenge in your life that when you think back, you're like, man, that was hard, or that was very difficult, that's a great story right there. The next part of discovering a story is a transition. So a transition may look something like this. A transition may be graduating high school, going to college, graduating to college, moving out of your parents' home, maybe moving back into your parents' home, getting married, having children. These are all transitions of life that when you made that decision or that situation happened, you had to become essentially a new person because of the transition that you made. The next part is being able to understand this. Other than the challenge, other than transition, it's being able to have what's called a defining moment. A defining moment is where your entire life changed. It could be for better or it could be for worse. It could be, for example, a defining moment could be like the loss of a loved one and, not having someone that you really care about. It could be, you know, maybe a divorce. Like that's very difficult. Like these are moments in our lives that change forever. Like we're not the same people. So just really think about a defining moment in your life where you look back and you say, my goodness, my life was never the same. I will forever be a different human being because of this one event. Typically in a lifespan, we have a handful of defining moments. Think about yours. Once you've thought about what your defining moment is, your challenge, your transition, it's being able to pull one of those stories out and then putting it together in a structure that makes sense, which leads us to the next part, which is the developing phase. And now you're learning how to develop the story. Before I get into the developing of the story, there's a couple more things I want to touch on. In the discovery phase, it's also not just discovering parts of your story that have happened, it's also not learning to take your identity in the negative things that's happened in your life. Because I believe that no matter how bad has something in your life that has occurred, there's always a lesson to pull from it. And rather than identify with the bad thing that happened or the challenge, identify with the overcoming of the adversity, not the adversity itself. Identify with how you're healing from it, identify how you grew from it. Because if you tell your story from the place of being a victim, you will always be a victim in your life and not be able to impact other people. So tell that story from a place of healing rather than a place of hurting. I'll say that again. When you tell your story, tell it from a place of your healing, not from your hurting, which means that now you're being able to tell it from a place of like, this is what I overcame or this is what I'm working on, not to the point where you're still in the problem or the pain, but now that you've had time to heal from the pain and how you overcame it, and then provide your audience with particular next steps on how to do that. So always try to tell your story from a place of healing, not hurting. And also understand that the story that you went through is also the story that you go through and grow through. So if you go through a story, you grow through a story. That story was never meant to destroy your life, even though it may have felt like it. That story was meant to rebuild your life to become a completely different person. And a lot of times when it comes to discovering the stories from your life, it's also discovering the person you've become along the way. All right. I'm going to shift here now to the developing phase, which is this. Is when you're telling a story, you also want to craft your story in a way that is first and foremost, it connects. These are what I call the three C's of storytelling. Well, there's four C's. My apologies. Four. So very first part is this: is that you got to have a character, right? Typically, you're the character. So just like your favorite movie, there's a main character in the movie. So have a main character. In your life story, you're the main character. And tell us about that main character, okay? The next part of telling the story is this. It's called the context. So you got to have the setting, you know, the the who, the what, the why, the where, the when, the how. You're basically setting the stage to tell us about the story. You're giving us information, you're giving us details, you're giving us context to this character's life. You have a character, and this character has a context. Tell us more information about that character's life so we as the audience can understand. If I just tell you I went through a specific problem, I didn't tell you the information or details, you might be confused as to why I'm telling you. Be specific. Tell me more information so I can feel like I'm part of the story with you. Okay, so the very first part is have a character. And here's a bonus tip, make the character relatable. So, how do you make the character relatable? Is that you tell certain parts of your life about that character that you know connect with your audience. Okay, so identify maybe a common struggle, a common challenge, a common problem that you have experienced that you believe your audience would also experience. And now you're making your character relatable. And when you make your character relatable, you also make your character likable. I'll say that again. Make your character relatable, then you can make your character likable. And that comes to building up the context of the where, the what, the when, the why, the how of the particular setting of the situation. And people want to know who you are on a personal level. That's why I love speaking and storytelling. Is the more I become personal with my audience, not to the point where I'm sharing too much information, but share just the right amount of information for me to build a relationship with them. Here's the next phase. After you've talked about the character and you've given us context, now we're going to do what's called a conflict. Every movie that you've ever watched, the reason why you like that movie is because you have a character that you like. They made a character who's likable, that you can relate to, who had a specific conflict. And you, watching that movie, believe that you want to cheer for this person to become successful on the other side. But this main character has a challenge. Whether you're watching uh, animated children's movie or you're watching an adult movie, it doesn't matter what genre of movie you're watching, your favorite character in that movie has a conflict. It could be a smaller conflict, it could be a huge conflict, but they're going through a conflict. The really cool thing about conflict, not just in movies, but also real life and on stages, conflicts bring change. And we like to see how someone can change from one place to the next because we've all gone through certain pain in our life. We want to see how we can become successful on the other side. And once we see a character in a movie that we relate to and that we like, and they face these conflicts and they face these challenges, we want to see them win. We want to see them be victorious. And so these challenges really remind us of ourselves. You got to really be able to see yourself in the conflict. You got to really be able to see your audience in the conflict. So when you tell the story of your particular conflict, this also has to be relatable. Now, we're not always going to have the same exact conflict. You may have a completely different challenge in your life than me because we're different. However, what we share in common is the feeling that we both get from the conflict. Because we both have conflict in our life, we can both relate to each other on the feeling the conflict brings us. The next phase, after you've explained the conflict that you, the character, and the context have experienced when you're speaking on stages, is being able to provide a conclusion. I call this learning how to land a plane successfully. When you get to the conclusion, this is how you wrap things up in a nice little bow and you tell us how things end. When you're watching that favorite movie, you're thinking to yourself, is this person ever going to be out of this problem or out of this conflict? And then by the end of the movie, typically they are. They become successful. They solve the particular problem. Your speech, your story is designed to solve a problem for the people in the room, whether that's virtually or in person. You are the speaker. You're essentially directing this movie you call the speech, and you're becoming the actor in the role of the movie, and the audience is listening, and we need to find a way to give you a conclusion. When you're giving a speech, you're essentially explaining your story of a conflict, of a character in a particular context, and your speech is the specific conclusion to the audience's problem. putting that all together, you have now developed a compelling story that makes sense. Here's a few bonus tips when you are speaking. Use what's called hooks in your opening. There's a few key things that you can do in the beginning of your speech to grab the audience's attention. You can ask them a universal question. So a universal question is something like this. By a show of hands, how many people in this room have ever been afraid? You can raise your hand. I would say pretty much everyone, if they're being honest, has been afraid of something. That's a universal question that builds a commonality between you and the audience. They can relate to you. If I ask a question is like, how many people have ever done a backflip off of a dirt bike? I mean, most people are not going to be able to raise their hand because it's not relatable. Therefore, you can't connect with me. So ask a universal question to your audience. Now they can relate with me. The next thing that you can do is you can share an inspiring quote that's has a very unique perspective. Usually people are paying attention to that. You can also do what's called storytelling right from the beginning, which means you really start right into the story. As soon as you start speaking, you're rolling right into a story. Those are some bonus tips when it comes to starting your speech. And in the middle of your speech, essentially, what you want to do, the reason why at the beginning of the speech you're asking these particular questions in your storytelling is because that's what builds connection. So when you want to build a connection with your audience, they're going to more likely listen to you. And after you build the connection, you touch their heart, and now they're open to receiving what you may share. And in the middle of that speech is what's called the content, which meaning you want to teach typically three important points of your message. So when you're teaching, now you're touching their mind. Now they're getting able to think. First, you're getting them to feel, then you're getting them to think with your specific process of what you teach. So now for the people who are feelers in the world, you're touching the heart. For the people who are thinkers, you're touching their mind. And if you could touch both of both people, now you're really connecting in a great way. And so now once you've done that, you're now able to transition to the next phase of the speech, which is the conclusion, which is essentially a call to action. You know, before you're doing any speech, ask yourself this question. What do I want my audience to know? What do I want them to feel? What do I want them to do? If you can answer those three questions, you have a good guide on what to do going forward. So, have a call to action. Call to action could be literally something like buy my book, book a phone call with me, meet me in the back of the room, buy my products, buy my services. These are call to actions. It could be anything. Just have a next step. You know, you as the speaker, you're giving your audience a next step to speak. So by the time you're done with your message, you're off that stage, you have given them at least one specific direction or action that they can take to improve their quality of life. Have that in your conclusion as you're developing this speech. The last phase is the delivery phase, right? You've already went through discovery, you already went through developing. Now you're in the delivery phase. Delivery phase is where you actually get up on a stage and do this. I recommend practicing ahead of time, whether that's looking into a mirror, practicing your speech, whether that's recording yourself on the phone, whether that's practicing by yourself in an empty living room, whether that's practicing in front of a couple people in your own home, in front of your family, I would recommend practicing because the more that you practice, the more that you're going to make an impact when you get on that stage. You know, before you get on this, people think that when you speak on the stage, like that's the highlight. That's the main thing. It's not the main thing. The main thing is all the things that you do before and after the stage. And then speaking is just a part where you get to really connect. But if you're doing this process before you get on stage, if you're learning how to discover the right stories to tell, if you're developing those stories, then when it comes time to deliver the story, it's going to be much more clear and impactful. And within those steps, there's obviously micro steps of the connecting piece with your audience, that's having the content that makes sense, and then having that call to action and having a great conclusion in your speech. These are all great things you can include. A bonus tip when you are delivering a speech, one of the most powerful things any speaker can do is what's called a strategic pause. I just did it right there. A strategic pause, all it is that in between words, I stop speaking momentarily for just a couple seconds. What that does is two things. It gives the speaker time to think about what they're going to say next if they get stuck. And then number two, which is even more important, is that when you pause, and make sure you're pausing at the right time, and the right time usually is during a time of conflict or something very important. When you stop speaking to pause, it allows your audience to catch up with everything that you just said. When speaking, say something powerful, say something inspiring, and that is a good time to stop speaking and be silent and let the noise of the silence fill the room and let the audience feel your heart, and they'll really connect with who you are as a person. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of strategic pauses when speaking on stages. It is one of the greatest ways to connect. And when you're delivering a speech, slow down and have more pauses, and you will see greater results. Also, eye contact is huge. Look right at the people, they feel connected to you. These are just some of the tips that I go over when I'm coaching my clients and I'm working with them on how to master stage presence. The next part of this delivery phase is huge. Is while you're going through the discovery phase and the developing phase, you also need to be developing and discovering what it is that you're going to sell with your speech. For me, I have a variety of different things that I have around my speech that helps produce impact and income. The impact is going to come from the things that you coaching and teaching and instructing your audience to do, which then leads to the income. A lot of times people want to get the income first, but it's the impact that leads to the income. I recommend a variety of different things. There's 3 to 5 things I think every speaker should have if they want to make money from speaking. First, you can get paid to speak on stages. I'm not against that. I think that there's a place to do it. When it comes to getting paid from speaking, there's typically 3 different avenues. One is you get paid to speak, meaning someone gives you, it could give you 5,000, 10,000 of your currency, and that's what you get, or whatever the number is. It could be a small number, a medium, it could be a huge number. You get a lot of money, a little bit of money, and then they pay you to speak, and that's it. There's also what's called speaking for no fee. So they're speaking for a fee, and then they're speaking for no fee, which means that you're not charging, right? They're not giving you any money. However, that can typically lead to new opportunities and more stages later on because you provided value to the audience. And then there's what's called paying a fee to speak, which means that you're paying to be on somebody else's stage and then also potentially getting the opportunity to sell a product or a service. Now, with those products and services, it is a huge turning point for a speaker when they have products and services. I tell people hire yourself a coach that can help you develop the right products and the right services, and you will be able to make unlimited amounts of income from stages in your speaking business if you have a product or a service attached to your speaking. I'll name a few here that has helped our business. One is first the fee from the speaking, right? And if it's not that, then a book is huge, right? So I've been to events where I've spoken on stages, and then I have a line of people come up and they want to buy the book and they want me to sign their book. And so that's another way to get income is to have a book. Another way to get income also is being able to have an online course. It's typically something they can go at their own pace. They can buy it right online from one click of a button. They have an online course of you teaching a particular subject. This is where you have to know yourself, your specific area of genius. Like, what do you do well? And when you're trying to figure out what you do well, ask yourself 4 questions. First question is, what are you really good at? Like, what's the one thing that you're amazing at? Okay, think about that. That should probably be one of your courses or something about your book and your products and your services. What is something you're really good at? Number two, after that, is asking yourself, what do I enjoy doing? Because you also want to enjoy this thing. What are you good at? What do you enjoy? Does the world need it? There's your third question. Does the world need this, whatever this idea that you have? And then the fourth is, can I make a living from it? Meaning, can I charge money for it? Can I make income from this particular thing? Okay. So ask yourself those 4 questions when you're developing, products and services. when you're doing your course, there's different price points. It could be anything from, very low, I will use like US dollars for a second here, something like $197 to $997 or above and beyond, right? It can be very low, it can be mid, it can be very high priced. You can quite literally pick whatever you want if you believe in yourself enough to have a product like that that can really make a huge impact in someone's life. Okay, so have yourself an online course that can make a difference for people. The next part, you have a book, you have your speech, you have your course. You can also do coaching, meaning you're coaching people on a particular problem, having a coaching program that could be anywhere from, it could be 8 weeks to 12 weeks, it could be 6 months, it could be a year, and this could be like a one-on-one coaching, right? And so their one-on-one coaching that's usually higher price, that's several thousands, maybe tens of thousands and beyond of currency of that you can impact people. So just really think about, your coaching needs to be higher price than your book and your course, and typically your fee from your speaking, your coaching usually is a higher rate. And you can do that a couple ways. You can do that one-on-one, which means you're coaching one person at a time, or you can do a group coaching session, which is mean you have many different people and you're charging them all the same rate, and then you can do that too. And so this is what I love to help people do is I absolutely love them helping them, get their speech down so they make money from their speech, getting their book down so they can make money from their book, getting their course launched so they can really know how to make money from their course, and also their coaching, whether it's group or individual coaching. And then the last piece here, there's other ways, there's limitless ways to make money, but here's another way. It's one of my favorite ways as well, and that is to host your own event. Okay, so you may be wondering, well, I don't know how to get on a stage. No one's gonna hire me to get on a stage. I've been trying so hard and no one's finding me and I'm really good and I want more exposure, I want more opportunity. I believe create your own stage. That's what I did. I created my own stage. I got sick and tired of being broke. I got sick and tired of not making the impact and no one wanting to put me on their stage. I said, I'm going to create my own stage. And that's what I did. How do you create your own stage? You host events. So we host speaker competitions and we host retreats all over the world. And so that's a great way to create your own stage where you can do, it could be a maybe some, we did some half day events for a few hours, and then we've done 1 day events, 2 day events, 3 day events. Now we're up to like 4 day events and beyond. And so you can pick the most beautiful places in the world. That's what we do. And we create our own stage and we charge for that too. And we make a living from that too. So that's a few different ways. I'll review them again. You can get paid from your speaking. You can get paid from your book. You can get paid from your online course. You can get paid from your coaching. And you get paid from your live event. So there's a few different ways. There is more. But for those of you who want to learn how to do those things, that's what I do. Because I want people to make such a great impact that their life changes, that their family's life changes. You know how much this has changed my family? Our family's completely different because we get to live a better life. So I get to do what I love to do. I get paid to speak and travel the world with my family. I just had a training on this on my page recently. Is that I literally I'm getting paid to speak while I travel the world with my family. We took our family to Italy last year. We hosted what's called the Legacy Retreat. My wife, my kids, and then we invited amazing entrepreneurs and speakers to join me on the journey. So we got paid to go on a vacation of a lifetime while providing value and helping other people developing their business and their speaking and building connections. That's what I love to do. Is finding time to make impact and make income that makes sense for you. Now, you may be thinking this is overwhelming and it's too much. I thought this would be impossible, right? Someone like myself being so broke, having no money, didn't believe in myself, didn't think I had the education, the support from my family, I didn't have the background, I didn't have the connections, I didn't have the time, I was busy. I had all these excuses as to why I couldn't live the life of my dreams until I got serious and I said, you know what, enough is enough. I know that I've been given this opportunity called life to make a difference and make an impact, and now I have to do something about it. And I started investing into courses. I started investing into mastermind and group coaching and one-on-one coaching. I invested in working with all these coaches, and every time I invested with a coach, I learned particular skills that helped me grow my business. I learned how to shift my mindset. I had to learn how to stop having limited beliefs or making excuses or blaming other people why I wasn't successful. And that's what a coach can do for you. So Make sure that's one of the key things. Find yourself a coach that you can hire to hold you accountable to your goals and dreams, and your life will drastically change. And then your family's life will drastically change because you will show up different in your own home for them. You will show up different for your clients. You will show up different on stage. You will show up different in your business and in life when you have the right people helping you through that process. I believe that you have the tools inside you is you're one connection away from a completely different life. You're one decision away from doing something that will drastically change your life for the better. You're one commitment away from a new life, from being able to have impact, have income that you know that you're worthy and deserving of. Because there's nothing wrong with you doing what you love to do and getting paid for it at the same time. I spent a lot of time thinking that I had to pick one or the other. You can have both, I promise. But you got to be willing to commit to having the right people in your life to hold you accountable to do that. Typically, my extended family and my friends that I grew up with, I love them and they care about me, but they weren't supportive. They weren't there for me. To become the person that you want to be, you're going to have a new circle of influence. You're going to have to invite new people into your life who look at you not for the person you were growing up as a child or who you became while you were growing up. Have people in your life who see who you are now, but then also can see the future version of you and love that version of you. They see the best for you. They want the best for you and they believe in the best for you. And they're helping you and supporting you to become the best version of yourself. I promise you, hire yourself the right coach and you can make the impact and income you've always dreamed of. But it starts with making that one decision to make a difference. And correct, a lot of times people procrastinate and it kills their dreams. And I'm going to challenge all of you listening, don't wait another day. Get the right people in your life who will hold you accountable to living the life of your dreams, and life will never be the same. My name is Jesse Cruz. I'm the speaker development coach. I'm an award winning international speaker and host events all over the world. I'd love to connect with you more. Let me know what I can do to best serve and support you on your mission. Thank you so much for your time, and I am ready for any questions that any of you may have. And thanks again to Prasant for your time and this opportunity.
Wow, that's amazing, Jesse. It was a wonderful information that you've shared here. So, friends, if you have any question, do ask, and Jesse will answer. Meanwhile, I've got some questions for you. Some people directly have sent their questions to me. Uh, the first question is, how do you handle nervousness before going on stage?
I think nervousness is whether it's on stage or it doesn't really matter. I think nervousness is uncertainty in any area of life. And so the reason why I still get nervous on stage. Like before I go up, I will still get nervous, even though I've been doing this a while. And nervousness is usually a sign of maybe you're uncertain or maybe you really care. And because I really care, I still get nervous because I don't want to mess up. I don't want to disappoint. And I want to give the audience my absolute best every single time that I speak. So sometimes the nervousness is good because it shows that you really care. The other part of nervousness is it could be the uncertainty. And the uncertainty, you will notice the difference because typically an uncertain speaker has not practiced enough. And if you're not putting in the practice, you're not having the right coaching, you're not putting in the right time and effort to prepare for the stage, your nervousness is going to be so high, it's going to be very difficult to speak. And so I would say anytime that you're nervous, take more time to prepare because I believe confidence comes from competence. Competence meaning you've taken the time to research, to study, to really be thorough in learning as much as you possibly can about a particular subject. And if you want to reduce nervousness, spend more time learning about your particular subject.
Wonderful, amazing. So I'm sure that you've got your answer. Okay, so we have a question here from Shivajit Das. How to make our characters motivated in awkward situations? Wonderful question. Thank you, Shivajit.
How to make our characters motivated in awkward situations. I believe that I think it's the awkward situations that bring the motivation. So I think that anytime there's these awkward situations in our lives is the fact that we're changing And changing is a sign that growth is happening. Change is a sign that we're uncertain. Change is a sign that, yes, it's going to be awkward. And people get really uncomfortable with the change and the awkwardness. It's supposed to be awkward because you've never done this before. It's supposed to be awkward because you're essentially growing into a new person. It's supposed to be awkward because you don't know what you're doing. It's supposed to be awkward because you don't know how to feel. And a lot of times we run from that awkwardness, but it's the
Yeah.
awkwardness that's the exact thing that you need to go to the next level. So when you're experiencing the awkwardness, I encourage you, keep going because this is going to be what it is a requirement to grow. Is the uncomfortable, awkward, strange feeling that we all get and experience in our lives, personally and when we're sharing stories in our lives on stage. Those moments are the exact thing we need to grow and then connect with our audience.
Yeah. And it is awkward because it is happening for the first time, right?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for this answer. So, Ritika, I'm a parenting coach and I need some guidance.
Now, I don't know your particular situation. So I can't, there's certain things I can help you with. I don't have enough context. But I will say a lot of times when it comes to coaches who are struggling, is that I'm going to give you a quick little formula that could potentially help, but I don't know your exact situation. Know the exact problem you solve, the audience that you serve, and then why you're doing it.
So, here is a question: how to connect more clients as I am working as a parenting coach? Sometimes I get confused.
How to connect more clients as I'm working as a parenting coach. Sometimes I get confused. I'm not sure I fully understand the question particularly. I would love for this question if I could you could send me a message on social media. I would love to go a little deeper with you on this.
So,
But
be more specific. Be more specific.
yeah, so I would love to be able to answer. I'm not sure I fully understand the question to give you maybe the answer you're looking for.
How to connect more clients as I'm working as a parenting. Sometimes I get confused. Confused for what? So, Ritika, if you are listening to me, be more specific and like you want to get more clients and but you are confused for what? For getting clients or like something peculiar situation or talking to them or what? Yeah. So Subrajit says thanks.
My pleasure.
Okay. So there is another question. What is the technique to the technique can be used to keep your audience engaged throughout a speech?
That's a great question. A way to keep your audience engaged is to keep your story interesting. And so interesting means, as I mentioned earlier, making your story relatable to the audience. So there's a formula called rich, R-I-C-H. You got to make it relatable, which means that your particular problem, they can relate with the feeling of that problem. You want to make it interesting, which means, is this a problem that people find interesting? The next is the C, which is clear, which means when you're communicating from a place of clarity. You understand specifically what you're saying, how to say it. And this stuff comes with coaching, right? So I can give you good tips and strategies, but having the right coach walk you through how to do this specifically for your particular situation will give you more clarity. And the last is H is honest. I think honesty is the best way to be when I'm working with people. I believe telling the truth and being vulnerable. Vulnerability is one of the greatest ways to connect with all of humanity, not just on a stage, also in your own home, with your family, with your friends, at your job. Be honest, and yes, honesty may cause people to be uncomfortable. That's okay. Be honest when you're up on that stage, when you're telling that story, because that's what people want. People have seen enough of fake. They want
Yeah,
something real. And
that's
so
right.
make it relatable, interesting, clear, and honest. It's called the rich method.
Wonderful. Amazing one. Okay, so there is another question: how to handle the unexpected challenges during a speech?
Let me tell you what. You will have unexpected things happen during your speech. It is not if, it is when. Sometimes the mic goes out, maybe the lights don't work, maybe there's something else going on in the room. And that's why
Yeah,
being able to be flexible, be willing to adapt and to adjust when things don't go your way. I would also say maybe even plan for the unexpected. Like before you even take the stage, think about what if everything goes wrong? What am I going to do?
yeah,
Because the bottom line is things can go wrong. I was on a stage one time. I completely forgot what I was going to say. Like I went blank. Okay. So I'm like, and I have all these people listening to what I'm going to say, and I have went completely blank. However, those strategic pauses that I talked about earlier, I used
yeah.
my strategic pause, and then it gave me a few seconds to think about what I was going to say next. I was able to recover the speech, and no one even knew. Like people, like they didn't even know that I completely messed up the speech because I had built in these other skill sets to help me during times where maybe I may forget or something may go wrong on my end. Sometimes there's things that go wrong that are out of your control, that have nothing to do with you in the room or where you're speaking. For example, I had about 37 technical issues trying to get on this call that were probably on my end. I had to re-download some things, I had to click different links, and I could have got really frustrated and really angry. I was like, all right, I'll figure it out. I'll ask for help. Unexpected things happen. It's gonna be okay. Unexpected things are fine, and just understand they're part of life. They're part of speaking too, and just be willing to adjust and be flexible if they happen.
Wonderful. So another question from Shabajit: does making audience laugh can relate to audience? Can relate to them?
One of the greatest ways to relate to an audience is get them to laugh because you want to get your audience to feel something. Before you get on the stage, you want them to feel inspired. Is it motivated? Is it curious? Is it educated? Like, well, how you want them to feel? Do you want them to laugh? If you want them to laugh, great, because laughter breaks the ice. Laughter builds connection. Laughter is going to really get you and your audience to connect and bond, and it builds trust. So, yes, if you can get your audience to laugh, go for it.
Great. So Ritika says sometimes some clients want guidance but don't want to pay. And that moment is like she gets confused.
Sometimes clients want guidance but don't want to pay. At the moment, I get confused on how to attract specific clients so that I can get paid. Thank you so much for helping me too. Okay, that's a little more clarity. Thank you so much for that. It could be there's a couple things going on. It sounds like, and like I said, I don't know the full context, but from what I'm gathering, there could be two to three problems happening here. Problem number one is your confidence and belief in yourself. So when I started out, I would my price was very, very low because I didn't really believe in myself. And so because my price is very, very low and I don't really believe in myself, I subconsciously attract other people with really, really small budgets who don't believe in themselves. And so then, since they don't believe in themselves, when they hire you, they don't think it's already going to work anyway. So they don't want to pay you because they don't believe that you can help them. They don't believe they can receive your help. And then you also don't believe that much in yourself because your price is so low. That could be a thing, right? So in the beginning, we have to start somewhere. I started for free. Then it was like 20 bucks, 30 bucks, and it just kept going up, up, and up, right? And it's going to go up again here soon. But over time, I didn't believe in myself. And so if they would say, "Hey, let's just make up a number. Hey, to work with me is $100." Okay? And then they say, "Well, I only got 50." And they're like, "All right, fine, we'll do 50." We keep just dropping our prices, and that's not always a good thing either. Is there certain times to make a deal? Absolutely. Is there certain times to make a discounted price? Yes, sometimes. But it's being understanding your worth and your value and staying there. Because if not, you're going to continuously attract people who are broke, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not for you can't grow a business like that. Like if you're trying to grow a business, you have to have people who can pay you or there is no more business. The business ends. So it's having a price, standing by it. I always tell people raise your price just a little bit higher. You will actually attract different people. You'll attract people with more money. You'll attract people who are probably better clients. When I raised my prices, I lost half the people and I had better clients and I have less headaches and less stress and less worry about money. And it sounds like it's like the opposite, but it's really true. raise your prices, attract different people. That could be one of the issues. That could be one of the issues. Another issue could potentially be is very similar to what I just said, is that it could be your messaging or how you're presenting it. And so if you're presenting and using words, whether you're attracting, I don't know how you're attracting people, if you're attracting them on social media or through email or phone or text, or however you're trying to get people's attention, you may be using language that represents lack or scarcity or fear or worry. And if you're putting any of that into your messaging, you may attract people who think like that and then they also spend like that. So maybe you could use things in your messaging when you're attracting these people to work with, talking about abundance, prosperity, success, and you might attract more people who think like that and are willing to spend more money. Bottom line is, if you don't have the people that want to pay for the services, they're maybe not your client. That could be the third thing, is because we're trying to make a sale and we're trying to grow the business, we might quite literally be going after people just to get a sale and just to get money, but they're not really your ideal client, because your ideal client is going to want your services if you presented it
Yeah.
correctly. And so it's making sure that you're not chasing after people who are really not a good fit for your services. People who are a good fit for your services are going to want to work with you. Charge higher prices, use better messaging, and attract better clients with what you do. It sounds like that's probably one of those three problems.
That's a wonderful message you've given here. I really appreciate it because sometimes what we think that okay, my courses are not getting sold, so we reduce the price, and which is not a good idea. So it's like uh, I'm actually downgrading my value, right? So sometimes when you hire your prices of the courses, higher the price of your courses, that will definitely give you good kick for the clients.
Yeah, well, also too, some people only like
Yeah.
to buy expensive stuff. And if you have no
Yes.
expensive stuff to sell, guess what? Ain't no one going to give you expensive money.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with having things that are lower priced. I have, my book is like $15. Pretty much anybody can buy that. I have a $16 book and like a $20 book. Like those are my lower price things that pretty much anyone can buy. But then I have other
Yeah.
things that are way more than that. And some people are what's called premium buyers. They only want to buy the most expensive thing. And
Yeah.
you got to at least have it in your arsenal. You got to at least have it in your toolbox, something that you can sell for at a high
That's
price.
right. Wonderful. Subrajit has a question here. Does physical appearance matter on stage, or only speaking skills can make us a good speaker? Or some people compliment that he's not looking good, but he speaks good.
So it's yes and no. I personally don't believe it should make a difference, but it does. Like, I don't think how you look has anything to do with your ability to speak. I think they're two separate things. I've spoken plenty of times in a t-shirt, like what I'm wearing right now. I've worn this on stage, literally, plenty of times. Other speakers, they don't like that I do that. Okay, they think that that's crazy that I would get on stage wearing a t-shirt and not being wearing a suit. Right? Some speakers believe you have to wear a suit and you have to look a certain way to be presentable on stage. Now there is some truth, right? You want to look professional, right? But you also want to look at your audience. For example, if I'm going to speak to a bunch of kids in third grade, right? They're like 8 years old. I probably don't need to wear a suit to that. I probably could wear sweatpants and a t-shirt because that's what they're probably wearing. So you want to wear something that's somewhat relatable to your audience, okay? Maybe just a step above in your dressing skill, but understand the audience, who's in the room. And so understand who you're serving, right? And just think about that when you before you're taking the stage, how you're
Yeah.
presenting yourself. You can wear a suit or you can wear a t-shirt. Just think about the setting. This goes back to the context thing. What is the expectations of the person who's bringing you on stage? Are they saying, "Hey, could you dress like this kind of way?" Or just follow their expectations because they're giving you the opportunity if they've made that clear. And it should be okay. I don't think how you look is going to stop you from success. I think also sometimes when you dress a little nicer, sometimes yes, that can help your confidence grow as well.
Yeah. Even just judging a book by its cover, you should not go for that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we all say don't judge a book by its cover, but a lot of people do, right? And so it's understanding how much do I change my appearance for the other people and also stay true to who I really am.
yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, Abhijit, for this question. So, what role does body language play on the stage?
Huge. Sometimes it's more important than the words that you say. If I'm speaking to someone and I'm like this, they can't connect with me.
Yeah,
Body language is probably more important than what you're actually saying in some ways. And so
that's right.
it's eye contact. It's you can't see me because we're on a screen, but it's hand gestures. It's how I'm positioning my body. It's how my shoulders are back. It's how my body is standing in a confidence posture. Body language is huge. I believe you could be an average speaker, but with good body language, you can make an amazing message. But the best speakers do both. Be amazing in what you say with your words and be amazing what you say with your body.
That's right. Approximately 55% is the role played by that is your physiology only, right? So, thank you for this. And Ritika now has cleared the doubt. So, gratitude to you.
Thank you.
And Shubhajit also. Next question again is from Shubhajit. What is real development as per you?
Real development for me is being intentional every single day to become Jesse of the future. I like to ask myself the question, would future Jesse do this? I think about that. I ask myself that. What does the best version of Jesse want to make this decision? Say this thing, do this habit. Ask yourself that question every single day. Is the future version of me want to become this? Because we only thing we are, we become what we do.
Yeah,
Whatever our habits are, that's who we become. And so I like to just ask myself, is this who I want to become with whatever decision I'm making?
amazing. That's deep. Okay, so next question is again how do you gauge the energy of your audience and adjust your delivery accordingly?
Oh, you're gonna be able to tell if they're into it or not. You definitely gonna be able to tell. And that's why you should do what's called a horizontal eye sweep. You're scanning to the right, the middle, and the left. You're constantly seeing who's paying attention or not. I had one time I was speaking and I remember I was speaking to an audience I probably shouldn't have been speaking to because they weren't my audience when I was, but I did it anyways. And pretty much nobody was listening. Like they were bored, like they were like kind of like forced to be there. They didn't want to listen to me. And I remember I was like, as I'm talking, I'm like, this is not working. They are not into this at all. Like I have screwed this up and I probably shouldn't even be here. And I remember thinking to myself, I have to do something or I'm going to lose them completely. And they already looked lost. I said, I got to find a way to win them back. And so I remember going into my speaker skill sets and things that I've learned. I said, I got to find a way to get extremely vulnerable with them. So I changed my approach. Middle of my speech, I was like, I'm going to tell you this story now. And I literally transitioned to something I didn't even plan to say because I saw the energy in the room was dying so much. And I started to get very personal about a significant loss that I experienced. I lost someone that I loved very dearly that meant a lot to me. And I started to talk about that. And then all of a
Yeah,
sudden, everyone's heads perked up and they're like leaning in and they're like, all of a sudden, I had their attention. But I had to be vulnerable and be real because that's what they need to hear. These are people who are struggling with losing people that they loved. But I wasn't really talking about that. I was talking about other things. Once I started talking about that, they were like, oh my gosh. And it was probably the best turnaround I've ever seen in a room because I thought while I was speaking in the beginning, I'm gonna have to end this early because this is not going well. Like this is a disaster. And then I just made the adjustment, started telling an extremely vulnerable story, and they connected so well to me, and it turned out to be a great response. So it's just understanding your audience's body language and then being able to make adjustments. as needed.
Wonderful. So, another question from Healer. What's the most unexpected challenge you faced on stage and how did you overcome it?
I would honestly, that's probably what I just shared. Like it really was. That was a huge challenge for me. Um, and it also goes back to flexibility. Like I'm gonna keep saying that is like you can have the greatest speech designed in the world, and sometimes you may feel led to share something else. Now, I do believe you should stick to what you're gonna say. However, it's having this intuition within yourself to know that maybe I need to speak something a little bit differently right here in this moment. But a lot of that comes down to knowing your audience, like really knowing your audience. When you're speaking to them, what is the main problem or pain that they're in? Ask yourself those questions. And then also ask, what is their big dream or desire that they want in their life? If you can answer those questions, you can really know them. And then you can really relate your messaging to that particular audience. Another thing that I've seen when people get on stages is if you're at an event and maybe you had 30 minutes to speak and then everybody ran over and then you get up there and you have 10 minutes to speak. You know, well, I didn't have a 10-minute speech prepared. It was a 30-minute speech prepared and it makes it more difficult. Back to flexibility. Constantly be willing to make adjustments to best serve the people in the room, no matter what.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, Shubhrajit, how to become a confident motivational speaker? What major contents shall we follow?
Have the right coach, literally have the right coach to hold you accountable to that, whoever that person is. Hire someone who is in speaking who can help you craft your story, walking you through the 3D system that I mentioned earlier, discovering what story to tell, developing the story, and then you'll know how to deliver that story. It's those steps right there: discovery, develop, deliver. And if you really have the right coaching and accountability to walk you through those steps with the right practice, when you get on stage, you'll have the confidence to really leave a message and an impact to the people in that room.
Yeah. So it's better to engage the audience in the beginning, right?
You have to engage the audience in the beginning or you'll lose them immediately. In the first 7 seconds when you speak, the audience is already making a judgment about you if they're going to listen to you or not. So as soon as
That's
you get
right.
up on that stage, you better find a way to grab their attention. And one of the ways not to, this is a not to right here. You do not grab their attention by saying, "Hey, my name is, hey, thank you for having me. Hey, I'm so happy to be here." Stop saying that.
That's
They
right.
do not care. They do not care. Grab their attention with something meaningful.
Oh, they already know who you are.
They know your name. They know you're
Yeah.
probably happy to be there. Stop stating the obvious. Stop saying thank you. It's not time for that. It's time to provide value.
Yeah. Amazing. So I have two more questions from my end. Uh, the first question is any advice you want to share with any with the people who are starting their journey as a coach, as a speaker?
Yeah, I would say this. It's a formula I mentioned earlier. It's called the PAW method, PAW. Know the problem that you solve and stop trying to solve 27 problems at the same time. When you're a speaker and you're a coach and you're an entrepreneur and you're in business, you get what's called shiny object syndrome. This looks cool, so I'm gonna run after that. Oh no, but that looks even better, so I'm gonna run after that. And then you run back and forth trying to reach every single person on earth. Your message is not for everybody on earth. It's not. I'm sorry. I know it sounds great and we'd all love to reach more than 8 billion people on the planet. Chances are you won't. I hope that you do, but it's unlikely. You have a particular problem that you solve that a specific audience needs to hear, right? And the audience is the A part, which is the who is the audience? Like who are these people? What is their age? What is their gender? Well, what is their family life? Are they an entrepreneur? Are they 9 to 5? Or are they a parent? Are they a young adult? Are they the elderly? I mean, really know who they are, their problems, their pains, their dreams, their desires. Know all that. And then the why is like, why are you doing this? Like really ask yourself why. A lot of times we We want to be coaches or we want to be speakers because we can maybe make a lot of money potentially, or someone in your family or who you looked up to was a coach or a speaker and you want to be just like them. Stop trying to be just like them and be just like you. That's it. So the problem you solve, the audience you serve, and then why are you doing this? That's the key.
Amazing. So there is another question. Like you said, for Ritika, like some, if you use the anxiety or the pain areas, the people who are connected to abundance, rich, and success, they might ignore. So, what kind of language a coach should use? Because the coach is not sure what type of audience, like what type of people are sitting there. They would love the pain areas, they would love the success. So, which language should we use?
Can you repeat the question?
So, as you said that but for Ritika, as she asked the question, and you said uh, if you will talk about something like pain areas, like depression, anxiety, or something, but the people who are more connected to abundance, rich, money, success, they won't be able to connect with her. So, in a seminar, we do not know what type of people are sitting there. So, which language should we use so that we can connect with each and every audience?
Hmm. So you want to do your best because you're not going to know everyone's particular problem. It's impossible to know their particular problem. So you want to focus on what's called universal language and saying things
Yeah.
like we and saying things like us and saying things like a challenge and a solution. And then, I mean, there's typically going to be similar problems with every human being. There's going to be, you could, if you really wanted to condense it all, typically it's health, wealth, relationships, and mindset. That's like the generalistic, like typically any person that you're working with has one of those four blocks. There's a health problem, there's a wealth problem, there's a relationship problem, or a mindset problem, almost always. So those are basically four general ways to put people into, okay? And so when it comes to communicating, your particular message and the problem that you're solving, it's finding a way to either have a blend of those or pick one or two of those and then focusing your messaging more on that. And typically, we're the most qualified to help the person that we used to be. I'll say that again. You are typically most qualified to help the person you used to be. I was a struggling speaker, dead broke, wanting to be a coach, wanting to make a difference and make money. And I had none of those things. I wanted to have my own book. I did not have it. Now that I've written a book, now that I'm speaking, now that I'm coaching, now that I've hosted events, I can help the people who may have only dreamed of doing those things. I'm most qualified to help the person I used to be. So think about the person you used to be. You're most qualified to help that person. Sometimes we're trying to help the wrong people. It's just getting clarity on who that person is and understanding what language resonates the most with them, trying to be
Yeah.
universal, which is meaning as broad as possible, but also being very specific on the problem that you solve.
Yeah. That's right. That's wonderful. And at the end, any final tip you want to give to the people who are watching us now and who will be watching us later?
Stop waiting. Most people spend their entire life waiting for the perfect time, situation, and circumstance, and then the perfect situation, time, or circumstance never happens. They get to the end of their life regretting all these things that they should have, could have, and would have done, but they were too busy worrying about the opinions of other people and having everything right.
Yeah.
Start right now, and you can make a difference.
There is a famous saying here, it's now or never,
That's
right?
right.
So wonderful. That's amazing. It was. Now, friends, as we now are reaching to the end of the session, I actually want to express my deepest gratitude to each and every one of you who joined us today. Your presence, your engagement, your enthusiasm have truly made this experience unforgettable. And a special thank you to our incredible guest speaker, Jesse Cruz. So, Jesse, your wisdom, insights, and passion for speaker development have illuminated this stage actually. Your presence here has undoubtedly inspired all of us and pursue the passion with renewed vigor. So, to our audience, once again, thank you so much for your thoughtful questions, your active participation, and for being a wonderful part of this community. So, I hope that you've gained valuable insights and from the session. Also, if you want to connect with Jesse Cruz, I'll mention his details in the description box. So once the session will be over, then you can connect with her if you want to get personalized sessions and you want to actually grow in life, right? So remember that the conversation does not end here. Stay connected, continue learning, be consistent, and let the inspiration from today's session fuel your growth. So, thank you so much once again, Jesse, for accepting the proposal and being here and sharing your wonderful thoughts, wonderful speech, and the techniques.
Thank you for having me.
So, thank you so much, friends, once again, and see you next week with a new speaker and a new topic. Till then, stay healthy, take care. Namaste.